Hey everyone, this is Doug C. Brown. I have Maeve Ferguson coming on the line with us, and she is an expert. And we're going to talk about how you get high quality lead intent buyers, like before your sales team talks to them. We're going to talk about that process. We're going to talk about how you can do that. You can generate it even using online technology to do that. She's an expert in this field. I've known her for over 5 years. She's the real deal. And well, we're going to go to her just in a moment. Those of you who are increasing or want to increase your EBITDA, your cash flow, and your revenue. In other words, up the revenue, lower the expenses, create some more cash flow. You can work with that cash flow. If you ever want to sell your business down the line, we can put that EBITDA multiple up. That'll increase your valuation. And as you put systems and processes and all of that in the process, it lowers your stress. So if you're interested in that, reach out to me directly at Doug@CEO salesstrategies.com. Sales strategies is plural. Let me know what you're thinking. We'll have a conversation and we'll go from there. All right, let's go talk to Maeve right now. Get your pen and paper out. You're going to love this episode. Hey, Maeve, welcome to the CEO Sales Strategies Podcast. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you so much, Doug. I am delighted and so excited to be jumping into this conversation.
And you're now in sunny Ireland, right?
Well, it's sunny. It's November at time of recording and Ireland. So no, it is dark and grey and miserly, and it's only 4 p.m.
So I have to admit, today in New Hampshire, we actually have sun. I'm looking out the window now. So folks, those of you who are listening, I invited Maeve on because we have known each other now for probably 5+ years anyways. She is the real deal when it comes to marketing and diagnostic assessments and different types of things like that. But Maeve, would you give kind of your background and let people know so we can set the frame, please?
Yes, absolutely. So, my background from a corporate perspective, I used to, trained in Ernst & Young for many years and then moved into several years in private equity. And then I made the big leap into entrepreneurship, and I spent the first few years of that business cutting my teeth in what I call quiz funnel land. So really getting good at building super high converting quiz funnels for a range of businesses, from e-commerce right through to B2B, right through to the expert industry. And over time, the methodology has really evolved into super high-end, very custom score-based diagnostics. So for the likes of B2B, super successful companies who really, really want to have that segmentation, that hyper understanding of their people and their prospects, and really kind of collapse the length of time it takes to decipher a good buyer from a poor buyer.
So you just said the magic words, right? So we're going to collapse the time from who we think might be the buyer to who we're pinpointing who could be the ideal right fit buyer.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, it's having infrastructure and automation to do that for us, as opposed to needing humans and trial and error to figure all of that out.
So Harvard University and Wharton School of Business did a study recently, and so did some major companies. And they all concluded the same thing, that 98% of the people out there who are selling, in part or in full, don't know their ideal right fit buyer. So that translates to me in a lot of money being spent on something, and it's like, oh, that didn't work. Oh, this didn't work. Oh, that didn't work. So you're coming in and you're saying, look, let's look at the spectrum and let's figure out and let's score this thing just like we would score a perfect candidate for a job position, or we would lead score something in sales after we're, starting the conversation and we're trying to determine whether or not we should put our time, money, and resources into this. And you're saying, you know what, let's do this all up front. Is that accurate?
Yeah, 100%. So it's all about having the infrastructure and the machine up front to identify who are what we call a platinum buyer, diamond, gold, silver, bronze, and unqualified, and having that machine essentially strip all of those buyers apart so that our sales teams or whatever the sales mechanism is can have the conversation with the people that matter and allow, automated sequences to handle those who are unqualified or who are not ready to work with us. But what we often see, especially in the B2B space, we're having all of these conversations with absolutely everybody,
Yeah.
with no allocation of the best resources for the best opportunities, and that pipeline management can truly be segmented way, way, way down and become again collapse in time and get into that sale so much faster because we're not having to spend hours and hours and hours every week trudging through people who were never going to be the right fit to buy in the first place.
So I look at the spectrum of a lead generated. So let's say we have a lead,
Mhm.
i.e. somebody goes, I put my email address in a form, or I saw something and I wrote down the phone number and I made a call and I left a voicemail, right? So to me, that's a lead, right?
Mhm.
But so many people go, wow, that is a qualified lead for me to be selling to, right? So they immediately launch into this thing.
Yeah.
Or they've generated a form online where people have, put their name and the email and phone number, and they think, oh, these are all buyers.
Yeah.
And right. And so I see this over and over and over again. And they're like, man, I called 300 of these people and I got one sale. What's wrong with me? Well, um, I nothing wrong with you folks. It's just one of those things that you're kind of fishing in the pond where it's not the fish you're looking for, right? And frankly, they don't want to be in that pond you're thinking about anyways, right? So let's talk about lead, marketing qualified lead, sales qualified lead, sales ready lead, purchase order ready lead, so to speak, right? And so what I'm hearing is when we do this score-based diagnostics, we're going to determine who should be a sales ready lead or a sales qualified lead versus a lead or even a marketing qualified lead, because maybe there's this old fight that goes on between marketing and sales. Marketing produces leads. It goes, hey, we gave you the leads, and sales goes,
Oh, your leads are rubbish. They're bad
yeah,
quality.
exactly, right. Right? So what you're talking about is cutting through that whole problem, getting to this place, and it's like this is your highest intent buyer.
100%. And it's all about that. When you think about that SQL, so that sales qualified lead, we have both qualitative and quantitative factors that matter. Okay. So for example, if you have a, $2.5 million thing and somebody has indicated that they are able to spend six figures, there's obviously going to be a mismatch there. So we want to make sure that what we not only take into account the qualitative factors that matter for those people who are primed and ready to buy, but also that they have the financial capability, it is budgeted for, they've got the sign off, they're ready to go. And when we bring all of that into the infrastructure of a diagnostic, it means that not every lead that's going to go through it is going to end up being a sales qualified lead. What the machine or what the infrastructure does is it tells you which ones are most likely to be ready to go and which ones are the ones that are not going to be ready, this side of time. And we can really then focus our team's energy on the people that really matter. And there's a really exciting thing that we're actually building onto these at the moment. So that the diagnostic essentially is the foundation, but we are building agentic AI solutions now that start to track patterns of behavior and patterns of how people are answering certain questions and their investment ability. So what level that they're able to jump in at, and what top of funnel copy, messaging, positioning, all of those things that brought them in. And then essentially help the marketing teams to position, do the messaging better, to do the positioning better, to attract more of those higher end buyers and delete and get rid of as many of those unqualified leads as possible. So it then becomes this kind of self-fulfilling, self-optimizing flywheel because of the agentic AI on the back end.
Mm, yeah. So, I mean, here we do EBITDA multiplication, right? So we're constantly looking, how do we raise the revenues? How do we lower the or make more things efficient and lower the cost structure, right? So in time, money, energy, labor, whatever. So what I'm hearing you do this is like, okay, so if we do this, we now start affecting the EBITDA within the company because we are now being much more effective, but we're being way more efficient in being more effective. So we're increasing the effectiveness and increasing the efficiency of doing so.
Absolutely. And we can eliminate when we think of the staff, the resources that we're using every single week to have really bad sales conversations because they never should have been sales conversations in the first place. Not only can we eliminate that, but because of agentic AI and all of these amazing things that we now have at our fingertips, we can make that process even more efficient over time because it essentially tells us the angles to use and you talked about earlier, where let's try this and then it didn't work and then we try that. And over time, this system gets smarter and smarter and smarter, which means there are less gambles. There are fewer things where we're chucking spaghetti at the wall to see what might stick.
I want to know who came up with the spaghetti on the wall analogy. That's what I really want to know because
Some Italian did. I have no idea. Not me.
oh, you blame it on the Italians, my family, right? You're going to blame it on that side. Okay. I think the Chinese invented spaghetti, if I remember correctly. So the Italians just made it famous. Okay, so obviously this is like what some of the people are probably going, okay, duh, this makes total sense. First step is how, right? Mm-hmm. That's the next question they're going to ask. What do we do to start this process?
Yes, absolutely. So I think we always begin with the end in mind. Okay. So essentially what we want to do, let's take a B2B example. Okay. So what are our services? What are our offerings? What are the price points of those? And that essentially is where everything must be reverse engineered from there. And I always use an extreme example here, but if we have an offer that is about synchronized swimming, and then we create a diagnostic that is about gardening, when people go through that, they are not going to jump into synchronized swimming.
Unless they're trying to grow carrots in their pool or something, right?
Exactly. Maybe one in every gajillion people, yes. But again, it's back to this funnel congruence because there's so many things out there that it is like either bait and switch or there's just a complete lack of congruence. Or to be honest, what I see a lot in the B2B space is like systems that are set up like it's 1992 and it is, it's 2025. Our people are sophisticated. Our audience are getting more and more sophisticated over time. And the cookie cutter, here's my PDF lead magnet just doesn't cut it anymore. People are bombarded with noise. They are overwhelmed. Even in the high-end B2B space, this custom diagnostic that is personalized to them, that gives value is super, super important. So there's kind of two things here when we think about how do we actually build this thing. We don't want it all to be about us because nobody is going to take our stinky diagnostic if there's nothing in it for them. Okay. Yeah. So to quote one of my famous mentors, I can't even remember which one it was, but what's in it for me? Okay, there has to be something in it for your potential lead to want to take that thing in the first place. We want to give them personalized value that is about them and not talking about some other business at a completely different revenue level. So if you're running a multi-billion-dollar company, and you get some lead magnet that's talking to people who are earning $1 million, well, you're going to chuck it in the trash because it doesn't feel like it relates to you and it doesn't feel like it relates to your business. Okay. So we want to make sure that A, we know our offers, B, then we're going to be providing them with some value. Okay, and this is where the qualitative piece comes in, because we have to do this dance that it's not just about us finding the qualified lead and getting all of the data and all of the insights into our market. It's also about what can we give them. So often what you can do here, and it depends, this is going to be very broad because it depends on your business type, but always like think about, what are the 3 or 4 things that your perfect client comes to you for, your people who are paying you, the highest level of millions of dollars, what specifically are they paying you for? Okay, then reverse out of that, what is the struggle that if they didn't have that, what would that be? Okay, and this can then start to form the categories of these qualitative questions that you can ask them. And when you're asking these questions, make sure that you do it in a way that in the copy, they can see that you get it. You're asking questions from a level of sophistication that when a certain, your perfect person is going through it, they're like, this person gets it. This person is not sitting over here in a Mickey Mouse B2B environment. This is somebody who truly gets it. And we're essentially then asking them a few questions, not, we're not talking about a 40-question diagnostic. We're asking them a few questions that gain insight into the areas that you help people with. And then essentially what happens is they get to the end of that, they are going to get a score on each of these areas. And the whole idea here is that it's essentially a gap analysis. So it's like over here, you're 72%, you're absolutely flying, nothing to worry about here. But over in this area that we also help people with, you're scoring at 27%. And then what you can do, and this is where the personalization comes in, is that you are positioning your offer using personalized copy. So every person that goes through it gets different copy based on the result that they get that is completely personalized to them. And then your offer is positioned in a way that solves the exact gap that the diagnostic has just identified. Okay, so they are then getting this personalized result, personalized follow-up report that they're like, this person gets it. So that's the qualitative piece. So that's cool. That's our lead taken care of. They feel loved and cared for. The know, like, and trust again is collapsed because you have shown and demonstrated that you get it, and they want the thing. But not all leads, as we talked about earlier, not all leads are created equal. So from the business owner side of things, as the CEO, you want to look and make sure that the leads that you're letting in to talk to your sales teams are actually, as you talked about, sales qualified. So what we want to do there is then inside of the diagnostic, we're weaving in questions that are those quantitative questions that ascertain when this is going to happen. Is it the budget there? Are they the decision maker? Is this a now or later thing? What's the investment ability to solve said problem? And even though that doesn't affect the result that they see, we are then able to build what we call the hot leads alert system. So when somebody goes through and they answer question 7 and question 9 and question 13 in this specific way, that means they're a platinum lead and our sales team get notified immediately. And all of this is automated, all of this, and we're essentially able to then focus the sales team's energy on the right sales qualified leads.
So I want to, this is wonderful and fascinating. I want to, because I know people are like going, oh my God, this is like heaven, really, when it comes down to it. I just worked with an insurance company, for example, Maeve, and, their lead was, they stick a form out on the internet saying, hey, are you interested in covering your mortgage if you die or something like that, right? It's one of those type of things. And people are like, yeah. And then they're like, okay, so they fill in their information and then bam, that goes to the sales team. Or, hey, if you cut your final expense covered, don't leave your loved ones, hanging, right? And bam, that person fills out that lead form online and goes right to the sales team. Then the sales team's picking up and going, hi, Maeve Ferguson, and then what was happening on the final expense leads is, why are you calling me? What
Why
the
are you
hell?
calling me? Ring me back in 20 years. I've no plan on dying just yet.
Right,
I'm only
right.
43. Go away.
I never filled out a form online. It was like a lot of those type of things.
Well, yeah, I think, sorry, just sorry to jump in. I think this is so, so important what you have just said. The level of intent, I believe, the level of intent in marketing really matters. And when you think about a normal thing that you've just talked about there, people barely have to like double click on their phone to opt in for something now.
Right.
They like it's going to be like face recognition and boom, you've signed up to somebody's list. And there's no intent. And this is what I love about the diagnostic. I actually use our diagnostics to weed people out because I don't want to work with low level people. I don't want to work with newbies. I only work with really, really high end people. And I use the diagnostic not only to qualify those leads, but also as a filtration mechanism. Because if somebody can't answer our 40 question diagnostic, they sure as hell ain't going to cope with working with me and the solutions that we can bring and those really, really high end solutions. And for you guys, for the B2B space, it's the level of intent that is required, even for a 10 to 12 question diagnostic that's written beautifully to really sit and somebody spends 5 to 6 minutes of their life, which is not much in this goldfish bowl that we all live in.
Right.
That's a really high level of intent. It's a
Right.
completely different person.
So what we're doing is we're looking at the psychology of the intent, and we're structuring the questions so that those questions are getting that person to go, oh, this person understands my pain of what I'm going through or the opportunity I'm seeking. They understand, they can kind of relate to the questions through the diagnostic tool. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not so much, I mean, obviously, I don't think anybody would want 160 question diagnostic, right? So we got to keep them. What's kind of like the level of like this is the max? Don't go over this, so to
Yeah,
speak.
so it depends on the type of diagnostic. So there's three main types, and the one that we really want to zone in on today is the what we call a score-based diagnostic.
Yeah.
Some other diagnostics are, 40 questions where it's, deep dive into personality types and things like that. So I always find between for a score-based diagnostic, depending on your range of services, anywhere in and around that kind of 12 to 18 questions is sufficient intent. So it's not a gimmicky quiz funnel that asks, 5 questions of no significance. The whole idea here is that when you think of your very, very best buyer, and you position your questions and the answers, even just as importantly, how you frame the answers, that really makes them kind of put the skids on and start actually, oh, this is really good question. You almost want them to take a beat to have to answer it. And you do that, 12, 13, 14, 15 times, they will get a really good picture that you as the business owner understand where they are from their perspective.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's kind of like match.com dating sites in a lot of ways, right? It's like, you know, do you want children? Are you looking to get married? Are you, like, and the other person's going, no, I don't. And then like, that's not a match.
There's never going to be a match. Exactly, exactly. Yeah. And the whole idea then is the copy, because of the infrastructure that we use, the copy that one person sees is completely different to what the next person sees based on their results, their personal information. So it actually says, hey, Doug, here's where you are. Here's what's going on. Here's what's probably happening for you. And it describes their reality in such a profoundly specific way that again this know like and trust factor is they automatically trust you because you're probably the first person ever that has given them this level of personalization and this
Mm.
level of individualization instead of, as you say, a form that's put in your name, email address, and phone number, and there's no level of intent.
Are we using branching logic as they're answering the questions? The logic is then rating that question and then does it determine the next question that they get?
Yeah. So the answer is it depends. But these are completely bespoke. Like there's no cookie cutter. Like here's one that fits all. Some don't have branching logic, but some very very sophisticated companies that have a range of service offerings have incredibly complex branching logic. Because again, we don't want to siphon somebody down a road and they're like, this is not what I'm here for. It has to be their experience. It has to be what they're from. And a really good example here that we are working with a company in the power outage space, and they have 9 different types of clients that use and pay for their services. And the range of services across all of those 9 different types of people are completely different. So essentially, we don't want to try to sell back to like reverse engineer out from the offer. We don't want to sell a product that is for linemen to the everyday consumer. Okay, there's no need for it. Okay,
Right.
so the whole idea here is that now that is a super complex branching logic, but it feels completely personalized to the user because
Right.
A, they don't know what branching logic is, B, they only see the stuff that is relevant to them, and it builds that desire and demand because it is personalized to exactly what they want, as opposed to, what a lot of people have is like, here's my website, figure it out yourself, what you're supposed to buy from us.
Right. Yeah. And folks, those of you who are like, light bulbs, right? It's like the difference between selling wholesale or retail, right? It's like, so they're two different sales paths in a lot of ways. But what a lot of people do is they try one sales path on, one size fits all, like, hey, here's a shoe for everybody in the neighborhood, right? And that's where you run into challenge. If you're running into that process where you're like, your lead quality is not as good as you want, and your sales team's going, marketing isn't doing what we want them to do, and marketing's going, salespeople can't close these things. In high probability, what we're talking about on this, with Maeve on this podcast is probably happening to you. And it's that quiet thing that's happening below that's just eroding your margins. And you fix this challenge in itself, you're going to improve. I mean, think about it. If your sales team is closing 1 out of 5 today, and now they're closing 1 out of 4 or 1 out of 2, right? All of a sudden your marketing money goes a heck of a lot further. You've just increased your profitability out of that process alone. And you may have to build a bigger sales team if this works out the way that it usually does. I've seen this happen, Maeve, over and over. Maeve, thanks so much for being here. How do people find you, and how do they get a hold of you and your company?
Yes, absolutely. So the best place to find me is on LinkedIn. So just search for Maeve Ferguson there. Or you can head to maeveferguson.com/application. If you would just love to jump on and have a conversation with our team to see if that is something that we could potentially support you with.
Awesome. We'll put all that in the show notes, folks. Maeve, thanks so much for being here today on the CEO Sales Strategies podcast. I got a feeling some people have pulled their car over and they're just looking at the ocean or whatever, and they're going,
like, dang, this is what's been happening for the last 2 years.
Exactly.
This is why my sales and marketing team are always at loggerheads.
And then they might be getting out and crying too. I'm not really sure, but so thanks so much.
It's all good. It's all fixable. That's the most important thing.
That's the wonderful part about this. And folks, that's the key thing. If you're running through this thing, it is totally fixable. So, and you've got experts here who certainly know how to do that. So reach out. Maeve, thanks again for being here.
Thank you so much, Doug. Thank you for having me. It's been a really interesting conversation.
All right. So what are you producing? Leads, qualified leads, marketing wise, sales qualified leads, sales ready leads, purchase order ready leads. Wouldn't it be cool to have them in the upper side of that? If you looked at a bell curve, for example, wouldn't it be really cool to have your leads consistently coming in that are at least sales qualified to sales ready, so that you can be having conversations? It increases your speed to close. It increases the close rate in general, right? It also can improve your marketing spend that you're doing and increase your margins overall, ups your EBITDA. So if you like this episode, I'm going to ask you to go back and evaluate the episode in other words, go study this episode. There's a lot of nuggets in this thing. And if you love the episode, please go give it a 5-star review. If you want to talk to Maeve directly, reach out to her. And as always, I tell you, go out and sell something and play win-win-win, right? In other words, you win, they win, someone else wins. Don't discount. You don't have to. When your value perception is high, think about this. If you're producing sales ready, sales, qualified sales or purchase order ready leads, the intent is super high. You're going to find that your people are not going to be talking about, can I get this discount? As often as the other side of the bell curve, right? Those of you, again, who want to, up your EBITDA, you want to increase your revenue, lower your expenses, you want to create more cash flow, a higher valuation for your business, you want to reduce the stress in the every day of the business through systems, processes, and policies and procedures. Reach out to me directly at doug@ceosalesstrategies.com. Let's have a conversation. We'll see where you're at, and we'll see if we can help you. All right. Until next time, go be brilliant. Go play win-win-win. And again, watch your margins. Until next time, this is Doug C. Brown with the CEO Sales Strategies podcast saying, to your success.